Now let's get some more analysis because, of course, we've just heard from the opposition leader, but of both the budget and the budget reply. Leith Van Onselen is the founder of Macro Business. He joined us last week with a preview, so I'm very excited to hear his thoughts. Now, Leith, firstly, the budget itself, will it, as they're all saying, drive up inflation and force interest rates to go higher?
Look, I don't think it will. It's pretty modest. They are obviously delivering a very small surplus, but if you actually look at a lot of the expenditure measures like the cost of living relief, it's actually pretty modest. So it's a couple of dollars a day if you're on job seeker, for example. Also, there are some measures in there that should actually help to lower inflation. So, for example, the energy relief is actually expected to lower inflation by about 0.75%, the budget says. There's also some relief on other pressures like childcare. So I think it's pretty much a nothing burger, to be honest with you. I don't think it's going to have any impact, one way or the other.
We spoke last week and you said the government was creating a housing and inequality disaster. Did the budget do anything to change your mind on that, or did it reaffirm it potentially?
Look, it's going to make it a hell of a lot worse, I'm afraid. Look, just to put this into perspective, so I mentioned last week that the federal budget was expected to, announce a net overseas migration this financial year of 400,000 and 315,000 next year, which it did do that. But the real kicker was that the out years of the budget, so the years beyond that, the federal budget's actually increased the net overseas migration forecast to 260,000 per year. Now, that's up 25,000 from what it was in October and in the January population statement and also the intergenerational report. So we've had this situation in Australia whereby for the 60 years after the Second World War, we averaged 85,000 net overseas migration. And then under the 15 years of Big Australia, Kevin Rudd, et cetera, leading up to the pandemic, we averaged 220. And now the federal budget's ramped it up again to 260 a year going forward. So it's basically, we've had this constant ratchet up in immigration. Now, as I mentioned last week, this is occurring at the same time as the building sector is in crisis. And we've got builders left, right and centre falling over and we can't build as many homes. So basically what's going to happen is the rental market's going to tighten further and we're going to have, obviously a worsening housing disaster. And I will add also that the federal budget's own population projections was for a population increase of nearly 2.2 million people in 5 years. Now, just to put that into perspective, that's the equivalent of adding 5 Canberras to Australia's population in 5 years, or 1 Perth. Now, there is just no way that you can provide enough housing at the best of times, and it's going to be even worse when the building industry is on its knees.
For the people we have now, we can't house. There's a huge issue. I note this week the Property Council has also come out and said the number of new home builds has fallen to 10-year lows. So where will they live? And I know I asked you the same question last week. I ask you again off the back of even more concerning information, where will they live?
Look, I think they're either going to have to live in group housing, on the streets or in the cars, because the fact of the matter is you just cannot grow the population by 5 Canberras in 5 years. When actual dwelling supply is falling and house those people. So all it means is we're going to have more crowded living conditions and a whole bunch of people being forced onto the street because there's no other way around it. It's year 6 math. You can't keep growing the population at a faster rate than you grow the stock of houses, but that's exactly what's going to happen.
Well, I've got someone coming up next who works with the homeless and very fascinated to find out what he thinks about all of this because it's already a huge issue. What about the budget reply from Peter Dutton last night? Did any part of that encourage you? Yeah, look, it is certainly good. It's good to see the opposition obviously, target this issue. It does need to be targeted, and Peter Dutton correctly said that we're going to import 1.5 million migrants in 5 years under the, this is the federal budget's, the federal government's own population projections. And he asked a simple question, how are we going to house those people? That's basically like adding an Adelaide in 5 years just in migration. Then obviously we've got the natural increase on top of that. It is good to see him target this. I'd really like to see him step up and really target it hard. And I think, honestly, I believe if the coalition ran hard on this issue, and I believe they should probably change the leader as well to someone who's fresh and new and doesn't have any baggage. That's their ticket back into office because the overwhelming majority of Australians do not like this big Australian migration. It impacts all facets of their life. Whether you're renting or just trying to drive your car somewhere or get a seat on a train. And it is on the nose, and the Albanese government has erred badly, I think, in pushing this agenda. Leith Van Onselen, thank you so very much for your time. Brilliant as always.